A month ago, I took a poll and I asked everyone what they would like to see as the fan favorite wine to be produced next. A month later, it turns out that the top winner of that poll was an apple pie mead. I've now gathered the ingredients and it's now time to make that mead. Hi, I'm Charles and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. Okay, to make our apple pie mead, we will be using the following. I've got 4 pounds of Granny Smith apples. I'm going to be using 2.5 pounds of 100% raw honey, clover, half a cup of brown sugar. For spices, I'm going to be using cinnamon or cinnamon sticks, ground allspice, and ground nutmeg. For wine yeast, I'm going to be using a Red Star Premier Côte de Blanc wine yeast, principally because of its low alcoholic volume, about 14%, and it's kind of a slow fermenter. I'll be using straining bags with this one. We'll need enough water to give us our 1 gallon measure, or 4 liters. Something to do primary fermentation in, preferably something with a wide mouth top so you can get fruit in. After a week of primary, we need something to rack into our secondary carboy. I've got a 1 gallon container here. Airlock with stopper, and again, this particular fermenter on the right, the big one, does have its own built-in airlock, which is something you'll need if you don't have one. A hydrometer to help us determine just what our wine is doing at any given point in time, and also to help us to determine our final alcohol by volume. And of course, as always, using the sanitizer of your choice. Make sure that all of your winemaking equipment has been cleaned and sanitized. And that is what I'm going to be using to make this mead. Now, without the benefit of an apple press, there are still several ways that we can use to extract the juice from these apples. Now, if you've got one, you can use one of these. Or you can use one of these. If you don't have those, you can still use this. And one that we will not be using because I know it doesn't work, you can use one of these. Now, just to keep things simple, I think I'm just going to use a simple box grater. Now, this part of the plan should be fairly straightforward. What we want to do is that we want to peel our apples, grate them, get them in straining bags, get the bags into a pan, and cover the pan with about half a gallon of our water. Now all I need to do is just tie these off, and let's get them in the kitchen. Now here in the kitchen, what we want to do is that we want to take our bags of shredded Granny Smith apples, get those in the pot, along with our half a gallon of water. And we want to bring this up to a boil. I mean, it doesn't have to be a fast, rapid boil or anything like that. We just want to help try and break down some of this apple. And all we need to do is, like I said, bring it up to a boil. Turn the heat off. I mean, don't just let it boil and boil and boil. We're not trying to cook it like that. We just want to get it hot and boiling slightly. A simmer will work. Turn off the heat and then let it come down to room temperature. And that's what we're doing right now. Okay, our mixture has come to a boil. We'll turn the heat off. And we can just go ahead and let that come down to room temperature. Well, not quite room temperature. We still want it warm because we want to be able to mix in our honey and also our brown sugar a little bit more easily. So yeah, let's let it come down to it's like at least warmth at a touch. And then we'll go ahead and add our honey. Speaking of which, of our honey, we'll probably have this sitting in a pan or a pot of hot water so that it will flow a little bit more easily out of the bottle. All right, now that our apple juice mixture has come down to, well, it's still kind of hot, but I mean, you could at least put your hand on the side without burning it. We're going to go ahead and add the remainder ingredients. One, we're going to add our 2 pounds of raw clover honey that I had sitting in a warm container to help it flow a little bit more easily. So we're just going to go ahead and get that in there. And yes, I am going to get every last little bit of honey that's still in this container. We're going to go ahead and add our 1 cup of packed brown sugar. Actually came in at about a pound. Actually, it came in at a pound. But go ahead and get that in there. Let's get that incorporated. And since we're in here playing around, let's go ahead and give the apple shreds a nice good pack down to extract a little bit more of the juice. All right, we're going to add our 1 cinnamon stick. Good a spot as any. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add, let's go ahead and add 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. I mean, thereabouts. You don't have to be super precise about it. Let's go ahead and give that a stir. Incorporate that a little bit. Mashing down on the bags just because they're there. That having been done, we can go ahead and put our cover back on. And now we can let this come down to room temperature. Now that our mixture has come down to room temperature, it is now time to transfer it to our fermenter. This time around, I think I'm going to just try and pour everything in, with the exception of the bags. Which of course worked like a charm. Now, needless to say, the reason why I did not want the bags in there was simply due to the fact that we need to bring our measure up to 1 gallon or 4 liters total. And the bags add volume, but not necessarily the amount of liquid that we need. Now, this 1 gallon fermenter does have marks to indicate, the various levels. So I'm going to add some of our remaining water to bring our level up to 1 gallon, which is about yay, leaving about that much water left. In fact, I probably will go about a cup over a gallon for one simple reason. When I rack this into secondary, I like to have at least 1 cup extra so that I can freeze that in time for our next racking, so that when I rack it off the release that's on the bottom of the carboy, I can replace it, not with water, not with marbles, not with anything else but the musk that I started with. So now would be a good time to take a hydrometer reading. Give that a good little stir. Okay, good enough. Looks like our reading is going to come in at a respectable 1.065, which is coming in a little bit low. So what I think I'm going to do is that I'm going to add some additional brown sugar to bring my hydrometer reading up to about 1.080. So let me go ahead and get that done. Take another reading. After adding another half a cup of firmly packed brown sugar, which came up to about 4 ounces, we've taken a second hydrometer reading, and it looks like it's coming in at 1.084. All right, now we can get our straining bags in there. Where they'll do some good. Okay, it's now time to start the process of turning our juice into yeast. I've got 1/4 teaspoon of wine yeast that I'm going to try and evenly distribute across the top. Now, if you wish to bloom your yeast beforehand, please feel free, or any other method you use to prep your yeast, hydrate your yeast, please feel free. But this time around, I'm just simply going to just lay it across the top as I do with most of my wines. Put our cover back on. Okay, it is now time to label our creation. And what we have here is the following. We have an apple pie mead started on this date with an original gravity reading of 1.084. Now all we need to do is once a day for the next 3 days is to come back, open it up, give it a vigorous little stir to help the yeast out with a little bit more oxygen. After 3 days, just leave it alone. Put it aside somewhere where it's preferably not in direct sunlight, and let it go through primary fermentation. After those 5 to 7 days, depending, you can then go ahead and rack it into secondary and then begin the process of actually making your wine. Now, of course, there are additional follow-up steps that I do have outlined in my playlist under winemaking operations. Of course, there's several rackings, there's degassing, there's bottling, there's pasteurization for most of us, before your wine is actually going to be really ready to drink. So I suggest you go ahead and check out those playlists, those videos, and tell us what you think. Okay, it's now been 16 months later, because I missed that 12-month mark. I thought I had done this video before, where we're going to taste test our apple pie mead. A couple of things. One, later in the video, about halfway through, you're going to see what is called a continuity error. You're going to see that the microphone has changed back to my original microphone, and there may be some shifting of the items on the table. And that's because, for the most part, my microphone has kind of more or less died on me. So I have to reshoot this initial portion of the scene. That's the way it goes. Now then, as I reiterate, apple pie mead, born 6/20/21, ABV came in at 12.34%, and of course, it's been pasteurized. In fact, I'm going to save myself a little bit of time and effort here. I will simply say, just to recap that one, this was bottled months ago. I did not know what the doggone thing tasted like until I cracked open the bottle for the portion of the video that you won't get to see because the audio was jacked up. Yeah, in fact, I don't want to open this one up because I've already opened the other one. In fact, this was the other one that I had opened up, and yes, I did consume a portion of it. In fact, I'm not even gonna waste an entire glass. This was as far as I got. This was like the second glass helping of it before I decided to check the audio and video, make sure that I recorded everything and I could hear what I said before I realized, okay, can't use it. So that having been said, yeah, to repeat, it did come in cloudy. I did not use any pectin enzyme on this. If you pectin enzyme users out there, then yeah, you should have given it a shot to help clear some of this up. Again, because this channel doesn't use sulfides or now pectin enzyme or any other clearing agents that are out there to clear this up. This is what I got, and you know what? That's okay. Now, the initial tasting or the initial sniff went something like this. Now, on this channel, when you see me sniffing, it's to make sure that I have not created something that's not smelling too good, and I might not want to drink it. Haven't made vinegar on this channel from wine that I'm trying to make. Did make an apple cider wine, a Granny Smith apple cider wine vinegar. Intentionally, still got it back there on the shelf, and it turned out quite well. But for the most part, everything turned out okay. Even though this is a 16-month tasting instead of a 12-month tasting, that's just the way it went. Of course, my wines and meads are back sweetened, except for that last traditional mead that I just did video, where I didn't have to back sweeten or pasteurize for that matter. And that went quite well, but for all things being considered, the initial portion of the video went something like this. To which I remarked a couple of things needed to be changed. The apple flavor is there. The cinnamon is there, kind of, sort of. If I have to do this again, and I'm more likely will do this one again, I would double the amount of the cinnamon. Also, probably reduce the amount of lemon. I really should have checked the original video. I don't know if I used a half of a lemon, 2021. Might have been down to a quarter of a lemon at that point, but probably use a bit less lemon to manage the acidity just a bit. I thought it would be a lot smoother at 16 months than it turned out to be. But all things being equal, this was still a very drinkable wine. Let me reiterate, this is still a very drinkable mead. It happens when you do both and wines and meads, and then you throw some beers in there from time to time. But again, 12.34% ABV. This being the second glass, yes, you will excuse a few, let's just say, unclear vocabulary that I might be using from time to time. But again, it wasn't bad. Yeah, making those two adjustments to have it taste a bit more like apple pie that you would expect from an apple pie mead or an apple pie wine. That's a thought. Making a wine out of this. It turned out okay. And with that having been said, I'm now going to transition into the original portion of the video that I recorded just a few minutes before, and we'll take it from there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once again, it's not bad. It's drinkable. It's okay. It's kind of like just okay. I mean, I won't say it's just okay. It's slightly better than okay. I have no problems with opening up the remaining 4 bottles over the next few weeks and months, and just go ahead and sit back. Yeah, it's not bad. So to rehash, after having waited 16 months for this, yeah, make the adjustments, and I think this will be a much, much better product. Again, if you're not too thrilled about the haziness of the wine, let's see if I can show it in this glass as well, aka big glass, because I'm going to kill this bottle tonight. You rest assured of that. I mean, it's definitely on the cloudy side. For you pectin enzyme users out there, yeah, go ahead and give that a shot. This channel, again, no longer uses sulfites. This channel no longer uses pectin enzyme. Mostly because without using pectin enzyme, this stuff generally does tend to clear. most of the time. But again, that's my take on apple pie mead. More than likely I will try this one again. And of course, if you like what you see here, please click on that subscribe and notify buttons, and I will continue to do these on a more regular basis. Or if you really like this video, click on that favorites button, make a small donation, or become a member or become a Patreon to help support this channel. So until then, I will see you in the next video.